So clearly there's a lot of activity around vaccination in Nigeria, but then there's a bigger conversation around the world on the production of this silver bullet, so to speak. Well, the head of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, is asking for a pragmatic solution to addressing vaccine inequalities. And just a few days ago, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, called for vaccine patent waivers as a possible solution. The South African president is on his side, by the way, but the German government and pharmaceuticals are not in support, as they believe it might stifle innovation and even reduce the quality of the vaccine. So while that conversation is ongoing, you may wonder, just where does Nigeria come in all of this? This evening, we're joined virtually by Professor Oyewale Tomori to get a sense of where we are as a nation. He's a professor of virology. Good evening, Prof. Thank you for joining us on the program. So let's bring this vaccine patent waiver debate home. How can Nigeria come into this conversation?
Well, for now, good evening. I think for now, we're spectators. We're looking from the sideline. We don't produce, we're begging, we're seeking for donation. I know recently the government said they put us some amount of money to buy the vaccines, but then we have to line up for those who have already paid for the vaccine. So, like I said, we're spectators on the sideline watching where the game goes.
Clearly, it's not enough to be a spectator in this fight against COVID-19. And I recall, and I'm sure you do also, that the Central Bank of Nigeria came up with the Healthcare Sector Research and Development Intervention Grant Scheme. And this was to basically boost domestic manufacturing of critical drugs and vaccines. Now, over 200 million has been given, according to reports from the CBN, to 5 researchers. 286 submissions were made. So do you see those research and development initiatives as Nigeria maybe getting into the field of play?
Yeah, I mean, it's a step in the right direction. But the 5 people that were giving the grants, I'm not too sure there's any of them working on vaccine. They're working on other related drugs and things. So as far as vaccine is concerned, I'm not too sure of the grants that they gave address that. But I must say that between the central bank and the BIO vaccine, there's an approach, or there's a plan, series of meetings have started between the BIO vaccine Nigeria Limited and the central bank. And I'm sure momentum will move on after the holidays. And there's a great hope that we'll be able to get some support from the central bank on that line of vaccine production.
So if we're planning to move into this field, I mean, you say you don't exactly think that this might help us be in the field actively, but what are those specifics we can do? I know this might take years, clearly, but at least it's better late than never. So if we were to start today, what will those specifics be?
I think actually we started even before today. The BIO vaccine has been moving and making arrangements with partners. You need to have the infrastructure in place. You need to have people who are trained, who will be able to carry out all those facilities, so that when you produce a vaccine, you have people who have the proper training, you have the transfer of technology, you have the infrastructures and the buildings put in place. All those will take time, but action is going on right now. As I said, with the BIO vaccine, connecting with partners outside, signing agreement with some partners on those little stages that are going on. So plans are in place. I think with the support which we are hoping to come from the central bank, we can move forward as quickly as possible.
So if you could just break this down for us, because there's been a lot of debate, especially for professionals in that field, about the vaccine waivers, intellectual property waiver. What will that entail really? I mean, take, for example, an AstraZeneca or Pfizer. If this talks were to, go through, and then eventually there's an agreement on those waivers, how would countries participate, especially African countries like Nigeria?
The vaccine waiver is just one step. There are 2 or 3 other steps. There's what I also call the transfer of technology. And then you must have the infrastructure already in place. And so even if the WHO and others accept about the waiver, we still have other steps to go along with. And that was one of the things I was trying to explain, that it will require people trained in that technique I mean, the messenger RNA technique is different from the regular vaccine that we're doing. So you need to train people. Well, I mean, and that could take some time. And that's what we call the transfer of technology. Secondly, you must have the place to do the manufacturing, even if you train the people. And many African countries don't have that in place already. So we're looking at the process of building infrastructures, training people, and then having the funds, to carry out all of these activities. So I think we're still a little bit far away from the waiver of the patent. Is not, it's a first step in the right direction, but it's not that we will start producing vaccine in the next 1 or 2 years, except you have those things already in place. And that's what happened. For example, the AstraZeneca with the Serum Institute of India, they already have the facilities. And so it was easy to sign an agreement, and they start producing immediately. But it took years for Serum Institute to have those infrastructures. So if you don't have it already, and you don't have the trained people, we are looking at around 3-4 years, even with the waiver of the patent, before you can get anything done.
Well, Professor Oyewale Tomari, always a pleasure to speak with you on this topic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, my friend. A pleasure.